on the Cambridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to Fast Break, a Ball State athletics podcast dedicated to the Cardinals women's basketball team. Presented by Cambridge, here are your hosts, Dom Liacani and Sam Niger.
What is going on, Cardinal fans? Welcome back inside yet another edition of Fast Break, presented by Cambridge, a Ball State women's basketball podcast. My name's Dominic Liacani, as always joined by my main man, Sam Niger. Sam, we've got a ton to go over today. 4 different contests for the Cardinals in the span of the last 2 weeks. What's coming up next? Some big action games as well as the Cardinals continue to look to stay undefeated. And then we have a heck of an interview with not one, but 2 special guests in both Alex Richard and Maddie Bischoff. Sam, my friend, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great, Dom. I mean, it's been dang near a month and a half since this team has lost, so there's a ton of great things to break down as well, which is always a help. But undefeated in MAC play right now are the Cardinals. They seem to be on top of the conference right now. They certainly are in terms of the standings, but just some great things across the board from the Cards.
Ball State riding a 9-game winning streak right now. Ever since that loss on December 10th to Ohio State, the Cardinals have been firing on all cylinders. The only still remaining undefeated team in the Mid-American Conference in conference play. This has been a Ball State team that, listen, we knew they were going to be lethal with what they were returning. That was obvious. I don't think a lot of people expected them to not only win, but win big.
Yeah, in almost all of them. And it was really impressive what they were able to do on the road, especially against Buffalo and Kent State. Those are 2 tough road trips, 2 tough places to play. And to get it done with a double-digit win on the road at Buffalo, all the travel woes that they had getting to Buffalo, and then Kent State, the team that knocked the Cardinals out of the MAC tournament last year in the semifinals. There was a little extra oomph to that game compared to a normal MAC game because of those stakes from last year, and the Cardinals still won by 9. I was really impressed with this entire streak from Ball State.
So the 4 games we're taking a closer look at today, obviously, Sam, you mentioned those Buffalo and Kent contests. We've also got the game against Akron to go over from the 18th, and then obviously Monday, national television, CBS Sports Network comes into town, and Ball State takes care of business against Toledo and wins big by, yet again, double digits. You take a look at all 4 of these wins, only one of these wins was not by double digits, and that win was by 9 points.
Yeah. This is a team that has been dominant against every Mid-American Conference opponent they've faced thus far. Cards didn't win by just double digits this week. They've done it throughout the entirety of MAC play. 7 wins in MAC conference play right now. 6 of those have been by double digits. The second closest, besides that Kent State one, was the Central Michigan game, and that was an 11-point win. Look for this team to continue to dominate. Yes, the travel is still going to be there. Yes, there's certain factors that are going to make some games harder to pull out big wins than others, but right now there is not a lot that's gone wrong in terms of the Cards' dominance.
So I want to start with the Buffalo game first, back on the 11th. 78-56 the final, a 22-point victory for the Cardinals over a team that was picked ahead of them in the college mid-major top 25 on the women's side, and I think the country now knows who Ball State is at the mid-major level if they didn't already. Obviously, the Cardinals were picked at number 1 earlier in the poll, but Sam, let's face it, and we talked about it last episode during the podcast. I don't want to harp on it too much, but with the way that Buffalo challenged itself in the non-conference schedule for the Cardinals,
didn't challenge themselves.
Yes, is what I meant to say by that, but with the way that went down, and then you look at a Ball State team that was hungry with feeling maybe they had something to prove in that ranking, and not only that, but the travel was hectic, and I will tell you firsthand, it was quite an experience. Just to give people a little bit of context of how we arrived to Buffalo, it was maybe just over an hour before tip before we actually got into the arena. In fact, Buffalo was gracious, I guess, enough to move it back just 30 minutes for us to a 2:30 p.m. scheduled tip. But we were originally slated to leave on that Friday night from the Anderson Airport. We were supposed to fly out of Anderson and fly into Buffalo. They tell us after an hour and a half of us being on that plane, hey, we can't get the plane in the air. One of the trucks that fuels or puts in the defrosts the plane, one of the liquid gels that they apply to the plane froze up. So we can't get in the air tonight. We don't think it's safe. So we're like, okay, what do? We get back to the Anderson Airport, and, we come to find out that, okay, new plan. We're going to fly out at 9 a.m. early the next day, get into Buffalo, go kick their butts, and then come back the same day, which is the first time I've ever flown twice in a day where I've returned to the same spot that I originally started, which was quite a journey as well. So we ended up back at the Anderson Airport at 9:30 the next day. We ended up loading the plane, and the plane does not get in the air until about 11. So we do not get into Buffalo until about 12:05. Don't get to our hotel until 12:10. But I tell you what, give a lot of credit to both the players and the coaching staff for staying calm in those moments, because those are a lot of things, obviously, that you can't control. Life's going to throw you a lot of uncontrollables, and Ball State took advantage of that. Not only did they feel like they maybe had the chip on their shoulder with how people were talking so highly of Buffalo, but also with the travel restrictions and not having the game pushed back maybe more than they would have liked, and Ball State just came to play behind Elise Stuck's 20-point, 15-rebound double-double en route to her first ever MAC Player of the Week honors.
Yeah, the Cards were upset that Buffalo did not push that tip-off back a little bit. They were upset at the circumstances, but they didn't let those circumstances dictate how they played. Instead, they let it fuel them. And I think that speaks to what this team is this year. They know they're going to face adversity, but they welcome that adversity, and they know that they can turn that into a great performance on the basketball court. I honestly didn't expect Stuck to be the one to step out and have a great game that day. I expected to be a MAC veteran, an Allie Becky, one of the core four, you know what I mean? And the fact that it was Stuck, and the fact that, Richard, Becky, and MJ all had double-digit days that day, like, amidst that adversity, that just speaks volumes to what this team is capable of and the mentality that they have. I was more than impressed, and quite frankly, I was pretty happy that they smoked Buffalo. That was one of the teams that I personally wanted us to run it up on.
At 22 points.
Yeah.
That margin of victory for the Cardinals. So a massive win, and especially on the road, not an easy place to play. And the Cardinals, too, know now when we get into the latter portions of the season, the next time we see Buffalo later in March, at home in Worthen Arena. We're not the ones that have to do the traveling, which is huge. And speaking of yet another tough road trip, you take a look at the Kent State Golden Flashes, who were picked second in the Mid-American Conference preseason poll, last year's Mid-American Conference tournament champions, the team that knocked Ball State out of the MAC tournament a year ago. There was a lot of fuel to the fire for that game as well, and Ball State pulled out a tight one, 66-57, ultimately able to really suppress Kent State in that third quarter, limiting the Golden Flashes to just 7 points compared to Ball State's 18.
Dom, in terms of talent and environment, that might be the toughest road test as a whole that Ball State sees in Mid-American Conference play this year. Just the way that Kent State had been playing up to that point, the leverage that they had in winning last year's game, and the fact that they were at home really gave the Golden Flashes something to prove against Ball State, and the Cards came in and still took care of business. Again, it was a fairly dominant performance. Cardinals had only had a 2-point lead, at halftime, but that's second half. I mean, third quarter especially, Ball State outscored Kent State 18-7 in quarter number 3 and never really looked back. Great game out of LA, 17 points for Lachelle Austin. Richard again had 16 points, and then it's been the bench play that's really been the key factor for this team as of late. Grace Kingery comes off the bench, has 10 points. It seems like night in and night out, you can expect a bench player to score double figures. And that is not something that really any other team in the Mid-American Conference can say up to this point. Yes, it wasn't a double-digit win, but who cares? You went on the road in a tough environment against a really good team, and you took care of your business. Can't ask for much more than that.
So Ball State defeats Kent State in a huge Mid-American Conference.
That was big.
Contest between the two teams that were picked up atop of that preseason poll. Then you come back home on that Saturday, the 18th, and you play an Akron team that, let's face it, was not fully healthy. In fact, I believe one of their fifth-year women's volleyball players actually had to step up onto that roster. So give Akron a lot of credit for fighting through adversity, and especially that staff for identifying, hey, we don't want this season to be a waste for our seniors that have worked so hard to get to this point. But Ball State was on cruise control basically from the second quarter forward. It was back and forth really in the first. The Cardinals, I believe, were limited to single figures for the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of that basketball game. But then when you put your foot on the gas pedal with this team, there's really no putting the brakes on. 80-57, that final. Ball State defeats Akron for its sixth straight Mid-American Conference victory, I should say.
And that final score speaks for itself. Dominant, really, from start to finish. It is interesting. The big takeaway from me for this game, Dom, was I was talking to Brady Sally pregame, and he said if he could play all the games at 9 a.m., if he could play all these games as morning tips, he would. And while I think that might be true for him, I don't necessarily think that that's true for this team. I remember using the word groggy. It was a groggy first quarter. Everybody was just slow. I don't want to say lethargic by any sense, but it wasn't the Ball State team that we would have typically seen in a first quarter had the game tipped off at 7 p.m. It's going to be interesting when Ball State plays later in the year. I'm specifically thinking in Cleveland. We expect the Cards to play in Cleveland at this point, I think. There's going to be early tip-offs, really, on both days because both the men's and women's tournaments, they're taking place at the same time. You got to be really ready and willing to go at any point, whether that's an 11 a.m. tip or whether that's a 7 p.m. tip. Cards have got to be on their toes, and the margin for error in Cleveland is so thin that you got to make sure you don't have those groggy starts when it comes to Mid-American Conference tournament time.
18 points for Madeline Bischoff, a game high, huge. Even though she hit 2 3-pointers. I said one earlier when talking to her, but still only 2 for 7 from deep. But she used the ability to drive inside. She's evolved her game ever since she entered the starting lineup as a sophomore. Has become an offensive weapon from anywhere on the court. 18 points for her on 6 for 13 shooting. Alex Richard in the double figures. Lachelle Austin in the double figures. Allie Becky, no surprise, in the double figures. Tessa Towers in the double figures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we were talking to Brady right now, he'd probably tell us, according to his Kentucky math, you could put 7 players in double figures because Kiefer had 8 and MJ had 9. Like, this was just an all-around performance.
And you've grown to expect that against some of those lower-tiered Mid-American Conference teams. We saw the way that they handled the Eastern Michigans of the world. But Akron right now, I mean, they're 3-3 in the conference, and the Cards still beat them that bad. So this is going to be flashing some alarm bells for some of the lower-run teams in the MAC. They don't want to get blown out by the Cardinals, but it's hard not to if you don't have the talent to hang.
So we transition now to our final contest, recapping Toledo and Ball State. This one on national television, very quick turnaround for the Cardinals. 2 games in the span of 48 hours. You go from Saturday beating Akron and now having to get ready for yet another early tip. This one at 11 a.m. for CBS Sports Network and national television to come in and cover you. And a day that is already so busy when you have the college football national playoff later, when it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, when you have a presidential inauguration as well at the same time. A ton going on, but the Cardinals selected for national television, and they did not disappoint. 77-63, that final shot, 50% from the field after a bit of a slow start. And when you hear us talk with Maddie and Alex later in the podcast, they'll talk about how they were able to settle in after that start. But Ball State goes on a 16-4 run to end the first quarter and then did not look back from there, led for 32 minutes in that ball game. Allie Becky, a season-high 26 points on a career-high 11 field goals made. She went from going number 8 on SportsCenter top 10 the game before with just an incredible behind-the-back, no-look pass to now dropping a season-high 26. Sam, does it get much better than Allie Becky in the Mid-American Conference?
It really doesn't, and it's interesting that you asked that question because we've seemingly talked about it on every single podcast to this point. Obviously, Allie Becky is our favorite for Mid-American Conference Player of the Year, but when she's garnering this national attention, I mean, she was both on SportsCenter's top 10, and she got shouted out by CBS on social media as a result of her performance against the Rockets. You have to think that the rest of the MAC is catching on. And I don't think that they hadn't at this point, but up until these past couple of weeks, it was really close between Allie Becky and Chella Watson. There are some folks that were even throwing Jenna Batch in the mix, and I think that's fair. I think that's valid to have a 3-horse race at this point. But what Allie did over the past 4 games on the road at Buffalo, at Kent, and then that statement at home against Toledo. Just the excitement with which she plays, the chip on her shoulder as a senior. I don't think it's as close as it was just a couple of weeks ago. I think Allie Becky is cementing herself as the player of the year in the Mid-American Conference if she continues to play at this level, Dom.
So another thing I noticed from this Toledo win, obviously you have 3 different players in double figures with Allie Becky, Alex Richard, and Lachelle Austin. By the way, shout out LA, 1K for LA, 1,000 career points.
Great game for her.
And tied a season high in points as well with 18. Just a heck of a performance for Lachelle, who played 37 of those 40 minutes as well. But the thing you're starting to see with these rotations for the Cardinals, it's getting tighter. There's only a 7-man rotation for the Cardinals, especially when we get into Mid-American Conference play. You're really starting to solidify who you like on the floor, and Grace Kingery and obviously Malia MJ Johnson really eating up those minutes off the bench.
And we haven't gotten a chance to talk about this yet, Dom, but the injury to Elise Stuck prior to that Kent State game.
Right.
I was on that trip to Kent State. She was preparing to play, and they found out it was a 7 p.m. tip. The team found out at about noon that she wasn't going to be able to go. And that not only was that a blow to her personally, but the Cards have had to run a 7-player rotation against Kent State and now against Toledo. Obviously, you won the Akron game by a lot. You play a lot more players. Not only is it going to be a huge boost to Ball State when they get Elise back for just the number of bodies that they've got in the rotation that can play at a really high level, but the ability for Brady Sallee to make this lineup and this rotation versatile. You can mix and match players anywhere. Ball State at one point started a 4-guard system against Davidson this year because Stuck was out. Now, have they done that since then? No, but the opportunity is there to play at whatever style you think any given game dictates. So when you get Stuck back, I don't know who gets bumped out of the starting lineup or who stays, but the number of players that you can get significant minutes and have be significant contributors, that's huge for this Ball State team moving forward.
So Ball State goes 4-0 in its last 4 Mid-American Conference games since we've talked to you. A 7-0 start in Mid-American Conference play, a 9-game winning streak as well. The program record is 14, and I could sure as heck see this team maybe even shattering that, if you want my honest opinion, Sam, with the way that this team is playing basketball. But coming up next here on Fast Break, we have probably our favorite interviews, I guess, plural, that we've done all series long. We got both Maddie Bischoff and Alex Richard to sit down together and chat with us, and we just had one heck of a conversation about their relationship, meeting each other in AAU ball, playing against each other in high school, and what their relationship has evolved into here at the collegiate level. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. This is Fast Break presented by GameBridge.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. GameBridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at GameBridge.io.
Hey, Cardinal fans, welcome back inside episode number 7 of Fast Break, a Ball State women's basketball podcast presented to us by GameBridge. We are pleased to be joined by 2 special guests for this episode, our first episode where we have 2 guests on at the same time. It's seniors, Maddie Bischoff and Alex Richard. Maddie, this is what, number 3 now for you?
I think 2.
I thought we had you on the preview show and then...
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so that's 3.
3, yeah.
This is 2 for you then?
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome back, both of you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having
us.
Let's get started right into it. I want to talk more before we get into your two's relationship. I want to talk just a little bit about this season and such a hot start in MAC play, and obviously for both of you coming off of bigger injuries, and for Maddie, for you, obviously the second injury that you've had to deal with, but you've bounced back real nicely. And then, of course, Alex, you've just been on a tear lately. But Maddie, I want to start with you because coming off of that Ohio State game and then having to wait another 32 days before you got back into the lineup against Buffalo, what was that rehab process like for you with your wrist hand, right? And then what was it just like to finally be able to get back on the court?
Yeah, so I fractured my hand. It was weird. It wasn't my finger. It was like in the middle of my hand. So I couldn't really do much about it. They were like, first, just cast it, or you can get surgery for it, because they weren't sure if it was going to heal correctly or not. But thankfully I went to a hand specialist, and he was like, it should heal fine if you just cast it up for 4 weeks. So that's what I did. I went every week to get an x-ray, and it healed perfectly fine, thankfully. But yeah, it was definitely hard just sitting there watching my team play. But coming back was just honestly bittersweet. I've missed playing so much. It was so hard sitting there just watching everyone play, and then I was just, this is my second injury of the season. Like, I've really never had a big injury, like, all my 4 years here, so it was really hard, but I'm just glad I was able to come back as quickly as I could.
And then, Alex, for you, obviously coming off of that lower body injury, you missed 46 days right before the Bahamas. What was that recovery process like for you? Were you ahead of schedule when you came back, or was it you were right on time? What was that like?
It was just so hard to say. You have doctors being like, well, I've seen this injury in this person and it can take 4 weeks, and then other doctors like, well, I've seen this and it takes 9 weeks, and honestly, like, the biggest thing for me was just getting the time frame out and just making sure that my body was right. It was tough to not be able to put any weight on my leg. It was tough to be on crutches for a month. I lost so much muscle in my leg. Like, my leg looked tiny. I remember me and Maddie were in the hotel room, and I'm like, Maddie, she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I came back around the 6-week mark, and just about winter break, I just was in the gym every day, running sprints, making sure that I could be back the first game. Just trying to be proactive and just get back in shape.
And I think this team has only had its full roster healthy for 1 game against Northern Iowa. That's kind of crazy to think about, that this team's been plagued with so many injuries, yet you guys have been so successful thus far. How good is this team going to be when you guys get fully healthy?
This team's going to be so good. I mean, we're just very, very stacked, and like, it's just such a special team. We're all just very talented. We're deep, from the starters to the bench. It doesn't really matter. We always make a way.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely scary, because we haven't even hit our like full potential. So like, not one team has even like experienced us at our best. So I don't know. I'm really excited, and that's really exciting. Even like when it comes to like Cleveland, like, we're gonna be so deep. We're gonna be so ready, and I don't know. It's just gonna be super fun when everyone's back fully.
I think I saw a graphic on Instagram that Caroline made. It was 303 days where the 4 of you, and including Allie and Marie, hadn't been inside Worthen Arena together in 303 days. When you guys all got back against Eastern, obviously you had the game against Buffalo before, but then you come back against Eastern and you're all healthy inside Worthen. Did you guys kind of have like a moment together of like, okay, like, we're back, but we're back home?
I think after the game it hit more.
Yeah.
I think definitely before the game we were just so focused on like going out there, executing, getting what we have to get done. And then I think like after the game us four were able to come together, and like we talked to donors. We were just hugging each other, taking pictures. It was just, our hearts were so full.
Yeah. Yeah, I really didn't even realize it until after the game, and everyone was like, oh, the Core 4 is back. And we were like, oh, wait, actually that is true. We haven't been together in so long.
This idea of the Core 4, obviously it came out of you guys just being friends, but did you guys come up with that idea, or did somebody else kind of come up with that and you guys just adopted that? What did that look like?
I have no idea.
I think like we did like the SportsLink interview with like the Core 4 way back when was it?
Yeah,
it was
I would say sophomore or junior year.
Yeah, something like that.
And they called us that.
Yeah. It's just kind of like that.
What was your guys' reaction? Because you guys had posted it on Twitter, I believe, after watching the story. What was your guys' just reaction in the moment of seeing that story come out?
I cried.
Yeah, I think like we were all very teary-eyed. The whole team, like Sydney, Bolden, the twins, like everybody was just so emotional about it, because they were like, dang, like this is our last year with you guys. And then just with us, we were like, wow, like this is our last season.
Yeah,
it was just so emotional. Our moms were in the group chat. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
they're being so dramatic. Wait, Maddie, say what they were saying.
My sister called me like, I don't know. I called my sister or whatever, like an hour later it was posted, and Sabina was like, oh my gosh, like Mom is crying. She's freaking out. And she was reading me, because all of our moms are in the same, like, they have their own text group message, whatever. And my sister was reading all the texts, and like
Marie's mom is like, I just got done with the patient, crying my eyes out. My mom's like, just got off lunch break, bawling my eyes out. Allie's mom is like, they're all just being ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my god.
My mom's like, I can't stop crying. I was like, oh my gosh, they're like, this early, all this stat stuff is coming out this early. They were like, we're crying already. But yeah, they were like, oh my gosh, we need a drink before senior night. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's pretty phenomenal. Guys, specifically with you two, you've known each other for a really long time. You knew each other before Ball State. I know you were chatting before we got on the air. You guys don't even remember the first time you met. So when was the first time that you actually played together on the same team?
I don't know. A while ago, years and years and years
It was
ago.
AAU for
Before
sure.
high school?
I would say like freshman year. Or
No, before.
No, it was definitely middle school.
Yeah.
Like into middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
How has y'all's relationship changed then over the course of the years? Since you started that young, now you're here.
We just clicked. Our families became really close. So like literally sharing the same hotel rooms on away trips.
Yeah.
Like,
And then our AAU coach, Tony, like we were so close. Like all of us were so close. So remember we would like go to Tony's
his
house and like do stuff together.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
I don't know. We
fun.
just kind of really hit it off, and then
Yeah.
we always wanted to go to college together. We
Yeah.
literally would talk about it, but it just the opportunity just didn't really arise.
No, it didn't.
So I don't know. Just when I hit like the transfer portal after my freshman year, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not. Like I already knew.
Yeah.
I had told her, I'm like, yeah, like we're running it back.
Yeah.
Then what was that recruiting process like? Because we were talking about, like, we wanted to ask you, was she heavily involved in getting you here? Like, did you call, like, you just said you call her immediately and you're like, hey, I'm in the portal. I want to find a new home. Ball
Well,
State an option?
Yeah, okay, so what happened was it was like the beginning of I had known that I wanted to transfer pretty early, and like Maddie and I would FaceTime all the time through my
Yeah.
freshman year. Like
I
we'd
knew
always talk about
I knew
basketball.
way early. Like I knew early she was gonna transfer, so I was like, oh, she should come here.
Yeah, and like she always was like, come on, and I
Yeah.
was just like, yeah. I kind of knew. I tried to be mysterious to the coaches. I was like, I'm gonna like give them. I need to like raise their heart rate a little, make them think like I need to give them a little stress.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
it
yeah.
was an easy decision for me, especially with her being here.
Do you remember the first time you got on campus? Was she there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she was there. I just remember she was just so excited. It was my visit. It was like my official visit. I like didn't commit. The coaches didn't know what I was thinking, and she was like the only one here because it was like break or something.
It was me and Allie. It was like everyone was gone for spring break or something,
Mhm.
and I was here. Me and Allie were. I think Marie was too, but Marie didn't really know who you were
Yeah.
at that time. But I remember like coming to the gym and you and Brady were taking pictures together on the court.
Yeah, she was here.
yeah. That was funny.
So then so Allie knew you before you got here as well?
I've known Allie since elementary school.
How is that? When did you
So-
guys first meet?
Okay, so me and Allie were rivals. She played at Brownsburg, I played at Avon, so we were rivals literally since we were younger, and like I don't know, like we just never talked. We've always just been rivals. And then the end of my senior year, the last game that we played, it was in county, or no, it was like, I don't know, like the conference tournament, they beat us, and I went up to her after, and I was like, just wished her luck in her college career. I was like, I know like we've never talked, but like, I don't know, it's been so nice to watch you develop as a player, and like I wish you the best in college. And she just wished me the same, and then we would talk on the phone when I was with Maddie. Like we would talk. So like
Yeah, well, like all three of us knew each other like at a really young age because we would play against each other IJHL. Like I knew them too in elementary school, but I never talked to them.
yeah, like we just never talked to each other.
But like her and Allie knew each other more because they were rivals. But yeah, because me and Alex were like friends and we're like, oh, we hate Allie.
Yeah, we used to talk about Allie. We used to be like Allie Becky. She probably is just in the gym, on her fun time. We used to talk about it. And then one time I went up to her after when was it? It was we were playing basketball somewhere.
The
The
Hoosier
Hickory
Asteria?
gym.
Yeah, there's a Hickory thing after her senior year of basketball.
And me and Maddie were let's go. I was well, you're gonna be our teammate, so let's go talk to her.
This is
I don't know what to say, and I'm okay, I'll break the ice. Allie, we used to talk about you. We used to say this, and that about you, and she just laughed, and we're okay, she's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any good stories of in-game moments against Allie? How big is that rivalry between Avon and Brownsburg?
It was big, and I always was running my mouth. So Allie, whenever I would run my mouth, I just remember she'd run away. She'd be so scared. Well, I remember when I walked up to her at the end of the game, she was very she was stepping back, and I'm no, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm just trying to wish you luck in the future, girl.
Well, now Allie's got that chip on her shoulder. So when did that change?
Yeah.
Last year.
Why so?
I don't know.
Just out of nowhere?
Well, she just kind of became unstoppable. Nobody could stop her. So, I don't know. And then it just, fires all of us up. I love to see her in that mode.
She gets hype.
She does.
This year, yes. Yes. Can I just ask? This chair's about to break on me. When you see the behind-the-back play for the first time, what's the reaction? Are you oh, my God? What's the reaction?
I'm just used to it, honestly.
Yeah, same. It's Allie.
We
see her in out-of-bounds plays, throw it off the person's back and just hit a reverse.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. She does stuff like that, so it's just Allie.
Yeah, it was
We're obviously hype.
Yeah, but then I laugh more after just by her reaction.
Yeah, no, we'll be Allie, why do you do that? Why did you do that? Yeah. Why did you go in the girl's face?
Yeah.
Why did you?
Yeah.
And she just smiles. She's I don't know.
Yeah.
But she's not like that off the court.
No.
Which is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
She's the sweetest, most genuine person off the court. So
Yeah, I asked her. I was why? She was I didn't even get hype about the behind the back pass. I just got hype because we were running the score up.
Out of curiosity, with you two, do you guys have any good AAU stories that you remember with each other, either on trips, on the court, off the court, anything?
It's such a blur. I don't know. In Frisco, Texas, we had fun.
Yeah, Texas, we had fun. And then I just remember in between all the games, we would go to Starbucks together.
Oh, yeah. We'd hit Starbucks together.
Yeah.
We'd be in the car.
All the time.
We'd always be together.
Yeah.
Nothing specific.
So you both thought of Frisco. What happened at Frisco that was so extra fun?
It was just fun. It was a really cute town that we
Yeah.
stayed in. And I don't know. I think we just did a lot. We just did a lot of trying different coffee shops. Taking cute pictures.
Yeah, we found yeah. I don't know. There was just a lot of just so
There
much
was just
stuff.
a lot of memories. It is
Yeah.
a blur, but some specific things I remember.
Yeah, going out to eat all the time with our families, all the time. And then yeah, but we didn't growing up in high school, we didn't live far from each other at all.
Yeah,
so
so we would see each other.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you're halfway through the season now, and it is your senior year. What do these last few games mean to you guys to be able to share together?
It's just such a bittersweet, emotional topic.
Yeah, you're making me emotional thinking about
Sorry.
it.
No, because she literally just came over yesterday, and I'm crying to her. I'm I need you and her and Allie. I'm raising my voice. I'm you guys need to realize that we're never gonna get these moments back. We need to take in everything. We need to give it our all on every single game. As much as it sucks to practice sometimes, when your body's hurt, I don't know. We're just never gonna get these back. We just need to embrace it, take it in,
Yeah.
hold each other extra tight.
Because really, looking back, when we're hurting, quote unquote, sore and stuff, we're not really even going to look back on that. We're just going to look back on the good memories.
Right, I'm not going to remember I pulled my quad, February. I'm not going to remember that stuff. I'm just going to remember,
Yeah, so, it's just so sad. I don't like thinking about it.
Do you guys have a favorite memory so far, just sharing the court together?
Oh, gosh.
On the court? I mean, there's just so many.
I don't know. She laughs at me a lot.
Over what?
I don't know, like when I get like aggressive to people,
Yeah.
start running my mouth. She's like,
Yeah.
she always has my back. She's like, yeah, sis, tell him, go get him, sis.
Okay, now you're embarrassed.
What's the best chirp that you've heard from Alex on the court?
Oh gosh.
You can't say the most
I
recent.
know. I can't say that. I
I think
cannot
that
say.
if we want this to be
yeah.
out there, we
I
just
can't-
should keep it in.
I can't say the most recent. I can't say that. I don't know. I don't know. Probably a lot of them I can't probably say.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep it there, but
Yeah.
we get what you mean. I want to talk about the Buffalo trip. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've never experienced anything like that personally where I get on a plane in the morning and then go back to the same place I started at night. I know this is kind of like a weird segue, but what was that experience like for you guys? How did you guys stay focused and just making sure that you got the job done? Because we get to the arena with what? The clock is ticking, 73 minutes on the timer, not a ton of time to warm up. You're just touching a ball for the first time
Yeah.
that day. What's that like?
Yeah, well, for me, I would say it was a little different because that was my first game back. So I was already anxious enough, and then all that's happening, and I literally, Audrey, she was like, Maddie, like, it's okay, like, you're fine. But, like, I was freaking out just because, like, it was my first game back, like, everything's new, like, I didn't want to mess up. And then all this is happening, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm even more nervous. But it was fun, like, seeing everyone being so calm and stuff, honestly, just made me feel a lot better. And I mean, I just knew like we wanted to win so bad. Like we were like, since all this happened, like now we really have to win by a lot. But
Yeah, I think it just honestly gave us momentum. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't do all this for nothing, so we might as well
Yeah.
run him out of the gym and get
Yeah.
out of Dodge. So
yeah, we were like at least because Allie hates sleeping in a hotel room, so we were like, at least we're playing a Saturday day game and we don't have to spend the night in a hotel room. Like let's make the best out of it. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely rough. It was annoying. It was long,
Yeah.
but like everybody handled themselves well, and we were able to keep our composure, go get the job done, and get back in 4 hours.
Yeah.
Or 14, however long it was delayed.
Yeah.
So you go on the road, you beat Buffalo, go on the road, beat Kent, then you knock off Toledo at home. Those are kind of the three of the better teams in the MAC outside of you guys. What has this streak done to the confidence level of your team right now?
It's been everything, and honestly, like our mentality, especially having all these seniors, is that there's really no other option. There's literally no other option. We don't get it next year. So like every single game we play it like it's our last, and like there's just no other option.
Yeah, and I would say scary once again, like we didn't even play our best those games and we still won by double digits
Mhm.
like every game. So like we just like I don't know, we just didn't play our best those 3 games and we still like were fine. So I think that's really exciting too.
Specifically the Toledo game, the Rockets jumped out to a hot start. What was that message in that first time out from Brady to kind of rally the troops and get you guys locked back in?
Yeah, we just weren't ready those first 5 minutes. We
Yeah,
were just like
he didn't really say. He's just like, take a breath,
yeah. Yeah.
take a breath,
Yeah.
and he's like, we prepared, we're fine, go.
Yeah. I would say like literally all our layups were missing too. So we were like I was like, oh, we're fine. Like these are literally just our mistakes and they're just honestly getting lucky at this point. So and then we came back and we were fine.
Yeah,
But
I think it honestly just lights a fire under our butts when we're like down like that, because it's
Mhm.
like, all right, we're not gonna embarrass ourselves like this. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
we had our breather, we had a break. Let's go out there and do what we do.
you know.
What's it like playing on national television on an 11 a.m. tip on a Monday?
I mean, I think like it just means a lot, especially as a mid-major, getting the opportunity. Women's sports are on the rise, and I think being a selected team that gets to perform on live television, it means a lot. And I think, we just go out there and play knowing that we have a big fan base and a big audience watching.
Yeah.
I know when I'm calling games, when he's calling games, we look out in the crowd and we see all these kids wearing y'all's jerseys. Like, what does that mean to you to know that you're inspiring the next generation?
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, looking back too, like when you say this our last year, like it makes me really emotional to think like, oh, like, like I wouldn't say grow up with these kids, but like a lot of them I know and I've like talked to them and like for the past 4 years I'm like, dang, like this is, my last year and seeing them like in my jersey like out there. So I don't know, it just means so much to me and like I would have killed like to be them at that age and like, having people like us,
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just remember being that age, looking up to some players and just being like, wow, like, man, like, one day I hope that I can play college basketball. And, like, I don't know. I think that, like, the fact that we engage with them and, like, we talk to them and we give them the time of day and we make them feel, so appreciated and stuff, I think, like, if I think that would just mean so much to me if I was a kid. And it obviously means so much to us.
I want to talk about specifically your 2 performances as of late. I want to talk about your performance against Akron, but I want to start with you because in the last 6 games, you're averaging 16 points and 13 rebounds. Respectfully to the Mid-American Conference, I think you got robbed of MAC Player of the Week. But for you in these last 6 games, what's been the driving factor into your success?
I think just knowing that this is my last go-around, and ever since I got hurt, I kind of gained perspective. I was like, man, like, I need to be out there. I love basketball. Like, all the days where I'd be like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this today. Like, I wish I could take that back. Like, I just had a really big, like, mentality change, and I think that I was able to I was angry about my injury. I was mad. I was mad. I was like, dang, like, I can't even play in the Bahamas. I wanted to play against those big teams. So I think I was able to take just my emotions and use it as momentum and just kind of like get out there and play for my team. And yeah.
And then Maddie, you drop 18 against Akron. You only hit 1 3, but the thing that I liked about your game is that you were able to use so many different elements of your evolving game that we've seen you develop ever since you really got into the starting lineup as a sophomore, and now here as a senior. You got to the basket, you're drawing fouls, you're being aggressive inside. How have you seen your game develop from not just, okay, sharpshooter beyond the arc, I'm dangerous offensively everywhere wherever I get the ball?
Yeah. I would definitely say I've gotten more confident driving to the basket, especially with Brady, telling me, like, just go off 2 feet, be confident. So that has definitely helped me a lot. And especially right now, obviously I'm not going to be hitting my threes as how I would like to, since I've been off for like a month and I couldn't even shoot for a month. So I'm trying to get back into it, but really I was just trying to look for ways, like, since I'm not hitting, like, what else can I do to help the team? So not only does obviously I get to the basket, when I drive, I try to kick it out to, Allie, Lachelle, Grace, So I don't know. It just really a confidence thing. Like, if I'm not hitting, I'm going to try to do something else to help the team.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming on. This has been awesome. You guys are phenomenal. And we just want to say thank you for sticking with us and appearing on the podcast one more time. But, we can just tell, and the fans can tell from sitting in the stands watching you guys play, that you love playing with each other. You love playing with this team, and it shows both in here and out on the court. So thank you guys.
Oh, thank you so much for
And thanks for being reoccurring guests. Maddie especially, thanks for dealing with me for the third time. Third time.
No, I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it because you guys are dogs. Like, you guys are fun to watch.
You.
So we appreciate you guys coming on. Any last words for Cardinal fans here as we really get into the thick of Mid-American Conference play?
MAC Champs 2025.
Yeah. Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
I think you said that in our preseason show, too.
No, that was a couple years ago.
We'll have to roll the tape, but that's all right. Hey, guys, thanks so much for joining us. That's been Maddie Bischoff and Alex Richard here on Fast Break. When we come back, we'll wrap up our show. Don't go anywhere. It's episode 7 of Fast Break presented by Gamebridge.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gamebridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gamebridge.io.
Back here on Fast Break to wrap up our show. Hey, a huge thank you to both Maddie Bischoff and Alex Richard for taking the time out of their Wednesdays here to chat with us and catch up and talk together. And there was a reason we wanted to do that together with them, Sam, because we know how special their relationship is and just such a good conversation. They're a funny bunch when they're together.
They are phenomenal people, and they are hilarious together, and they're great basketball players. And from our perspective, Dom, that makes for just a great listen, and they certainly were. Thanks to them, it was a heck of a conversation.
Let's take a look at what's coming up for the Cardinals here in this next stretch. You start on Saturday on January 25th, so I guess that's the one nice thing about playing Toledo on the Monday is you have a good 4 to 5 days of rest to really prepare for a tough Northern Illinois team that even though hasn't had the start it's wanted, Ball State and Toledo have always played each other very tough. The last 12 matchups between these two teams historically have been decided by 10 points or less, Sam. So that's how tough these two teams have played against each other in recent history. So that's a 2 p.m. tip on Saturday, January 25th, a doubleheader with the men's right after as well. Then you take a look at Wednesday, January 29th, the second straight away game heading over to the Convocation Center in Athens, Ohio to take on the Bobcats before returning home for 2 more games before the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. Western Michigan comes into town on Saturday, February 1st, and then Bowling Green rolls in as well on Wednesday, February 5th. Let's quickly just run through these games a little bit here as well. Again, I mentioned Northern Illinois and Ball State very tight in recent history. This is a Northern Illinois team that lost 3 of its starters from a year ago, but is returning a good amount of the scoring as well, Sam. It's always a fun time when those two teams meet up, and I don't expect anything less on Saturday.
I agree, but it's going to be nerve-wracking because Northern Illinois really threw a wrench into the plans last year, Dom. The loss on the road in DeKalb from our Cardinals cost Ball State the number 1 seed heading into the Mid-American Conference Tournament. It cost them that MAC regular season championship. So they're going to remember that as well, and I don't want to say there's nerves on this Ball State team about going on the road and playing at DeKalb because I don't think they're getting nervous about anybody at this point. They've been that good. But you have to make sure that you cannot let what happened last year happen again this year. In my opinion, Dom, and we've chatted about this over the past couple of weeks, if Ball State, this is a very big if they run the table in the Mid-American Conference heading into the MAC tournament, they're a tournament team whether or not they win the MAC championship. Now, obviously, the goal is MAC championship, but a team that's ranked 50th in the net right now in Ball State, if they win out the rest of the regular season, they're only going to climb. You can't leave a team out that's net ranked 40 or above, even if they're not conference champions, even if they're a mid-major. The only reason I could see that not being the case is if they lose one, and the one that they lost last year that they shouldn't have was at Northern Illinois. You can't let it happen again this year.
Wednesday, January 29th against Ohio. Both NIU and Ohio tied for 6th in the Mid-American Conference preseason poll. What do you see out of the Bobcats?
I see an Ohio Bobcats team that's underperformed this year. You said they were tied for 6th in the Mid-American Conference at the start of the year. Right now they're tied for 10th with Northern Illinois. 1-5 on the outside looking in. The way the MAC works is for teams that aren't named Ball State, you win at home and you try and steal games on the road. Well, when you got a Ball State team that comes into town, obviously the stakes raise if you're Ohio, but I don't necessarily see anything on this Bobcats team that's going to pose a threat to Ball State, but don't act like they're not going to be playing with a little extra oomph, a little extra mustard just because they know who their opponent is. Should be a nice contest for the Cards.
One team that is maybe overperforming expectations and playing a lot better than a lot of people would have thought. The Western Michigan Broncos right now, I believe in second place in the Mid-American Conference standings right now, tied for third, I should say, at 4-2 with Buffalo. But the Broncos have come to play this year, and they're getting some production from some folks that they weren't used to in previous years.
I think there's a significant drop-off, Dom, from the top 5 in the MAC to the rest of the MAC, and Western Michigan has definitely put themselves in the top 5 in the MAC. Not only in the standings, yes, they're tied for third, but the way they've been able to beat some of these other top-tier teams. They held Toledo last week to just 38 points. They won that game 41-38. You should not win a lot of basketball games scoring 30 or 41 points, but Western Michigan was able to do so. It helps that game is at home. Ball State kind of doesn't necessarily know what to expect out of Western just because they have been overperforming this year, so I think it's going to be nice to be in Worthen Arena for that game. But all things considered, over the next 2 weeks, that's the game that I'm circling on the calendar if I'm Ball State. Win that game, and you can definitively say, we are top dogs in the MAC.
And then finally, Wednesday, February 5th against Bowling Green. The Falcons so far this year in Mid-American Conference play. 3-3 just bundled up right in the middle, in the thick of things. What do you see from the Falcons this year? Because this is a team that brings back a lot of experience from last year, but maybe not necessarily the conference start that it wanted, because if you want my honest opinion, Sam, this is a team that should have been top 5, on people's radars coming into the year in the MAC.
And I think that doesn't change, even though they have had the slower start. They're still well-respected in the conference. The league has just been crazy this year. And with that in mind, I think Bowling Green is going to put up just as much of a fight as per usual with Ball State. These are two teams that have gone back and forth over the past couple of years. Bowling Green always gives the Cardinals a fight, even if it's on the floor of Worthen Arena. Expect nothing less this time. I think that record is going to be bumped up in about 2 weeks' time. Bowling Green has 4 games between now and then, between now and then to right that ship because they played tonight. I think the Falcons are going to be able to do so. Whether or not they're going to give the Cardinals a run for their money is a different conversation, but it's so far away right now. I could see Bowling Green climbing in the standings before they face Ball State, though.
And then we won't talk about it too much, but obviously Ball State selected to play James Madison, another top dog in a very good mid-major conference in the Sun Belt. James Madison right now sitting in first place in conference play there. So that's what's coming up in Ball State women's basketball in the next couple of weeks before we talk to you next. Sam, any quick final thoughts before we wrap up? I mean, there's no really, in my opinion, other ways to describe this team besides it's probably playing some of its best basketball right now. It's only going to continue to get better, and the Cardinals are just hot.
And we're not even halfway through MAC play at this point, Dom, so I don't want to go too far out on a limb. But this is a team that's 6-0 in the conference or 7-0, in the conference right now. There is no reason for Ball State to take the foot off the gas. It's Ball State's conference to lose at this point. If they take care of their business, if they play the way they've continued to play, if they get healthy, I don't see a lot stopping this team.
Couldn't agree more myself, my friend. That's going to do it here for episode number 7 of Fast Break. Again, a huge thank you to both Maddie and Alex for hopping on the pod with us. Thank you for tuning in all episode long. We will see you in a couple of weeks. For Sam Niger, I'm Dominic Liacani. This has been Fast Break presented by GameBridge. Take care. We'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to Fast Break, presented by GameBridge. The preceding has been a presentation of Ball State Athletics in Learfield.